Hello, and welcome back to another episode. Today, I want to talk to you about the Batman. But I am, as you probably notice, filming using my streaming setup once again because I'm a fool and I left the camera equipment in the car overnight. That's a bad idea for a couple of reasons. Number one, it can be stolen. Number two, condensation, etc., as the morning progresses isn't great for the camera equipment. And number three is the simple fact that your wife the next morning can drive the car to work, taking the camera equipment with her, and now it's about 6 or 7 miles away from where I'm sitting. So I am a fool, but I am a fool who wants to talk to you about the Batman. So we are working with what we have, the webcam and a fairly good microphone, so it should sound good regardless. And I want to start off by saying that this film was the film I hoped it would be. I really liked the Batman, and it was the film that I really hoped the trailer was promising us. And it delivered. So that sort of slightly David Fincher color palette, that sort of slightly Seven-esque relationship between the antagonist, the crimes, and the implications of suffering, and so on and so forth. It was there, along with the Batman, along with the world of Gotham, along with sprinklings of Nolan, sprinklings of Tim Burton, sprinklings of DC, sprinklings of obviously Matt Reeves' own vision as well for the movie. The trailer, in terms of its temperament, in terms of its tempo, in terms of its look, promised something that was delivered. And so very quickly when we went to see this film, I knew I was in for a treat. I knew I could relax and just enjoy the experience. We went to see it in IMAX, me and my friend Ruth, on the second day of release, because we simply couldn't risk being spoiled on this movie. It was an IMAX reclining seat kind of setup. We were only 3 rows back from the front, which I thought might mean that we were going to be craning our necks to see everything, but actually no, it was perfect. It was a full field of vision filling experience with the sound system, with the cinematography. It just washed over us, and we had a great time. We both came out of that movie beaming. And actually also in the afternoon, because we went to see an early afternoon showing, so it was still light. It's not often light when you come out of the cinema, is it, as a grown-up at least? So we had the rest of the evening and the afternoon to talk to each other and to obviously to talk to Mrs. Soup about this film. Mrs. Soup likes the Batman and likes Batman movies, but she didn't need to see this in the cinema. So that's why I went with Ruth instead, because we both definitely needed to see this film. And so yes, first and foremost, right off the bat, the film for me was the film I hoped it would be. It delivered on that front. I was very, very happy with that. And I think the film delivered specifically for me because it was, in many ways, the film that I've always wanted to see, at least in the first half hour or so of a Batman movie. A Batman story that starts with him as Batman. It's not an origin story. It's a story where he's finding his feet. He's in Gotham. He's known for this mission that he's on. And in that sense, it is a Batman story that's very close to my favourite story, and that is Year 2. Everyone knows about Year 1, everyone knows about The Dark Knight Returns or The Killing Joke, so on and so forth. But Batman Year 2 was my first Batman story, and also it was my first love when it came to Batman in many respects. And it made such an impression on me that I've always wanted to see something like this in film. And so this is a Year 2 story. It's not Year 2 the story. It is a Year 2 story. Meant that it starts and it hits the ground running, and two things struck me straight away. First of all, the setting. Gotham is gorgeous in this film, gorgeous in its grimness, you know. Nolan's Gotham had the underbelly, but had like that sort of gleaming Chicago downtown kind of look above that we saw with the monorail system and in the opening of The Dark Knight in particular. But this Gotham just feels like it's being held together by its 19th century roots into the ground. You know, some of the floors are cobbled. They filmed in places like Liverpool, Glasgow, in London, I think, and also actually in Chicago, for that sort of that under road network sort of feel. But the texture of Gotham, from things like cobbled on the ground, to the color scheme, to the rain, to the fact that most of this film is shot at night. I think we might see one or two breaking morning shots, and some daylight, you know, when Bruce is attending a funeral, for example. Just means that Gotham feels probably the realest it's ever felt. And by real, I also mean close to the comics. It's not too far from Gotham by Gaslight, for example. You can see how maybe a Victorian Gotham became this Gotham, and therefore it's similar to places like New York, like, you know, Chicago, like Liverpool, like the city that I live close to, like Newcastle, this kind of thing. It felt grounded, it felt gritty, it felt gorgeously Gotham. And accompanying this texture was my second favourite thing about the film, and that was the internal monologue. Some people are calling this a narration, which I don't think it is a narration. It's an internal monologue that Bruce is having with himself as the film opens, as we so often see in comics. You know, you'll have the text boxes appearing where, you know, maybe Batman will be thinking, you know, the Gotham is a wash with criminality tonight, but in the rain I am hiding, and I will strike vengeance. You know, whatever. You get his thoughts and what he's seeing before the story really kicks off. And you know, Spider-Man does very similar. You'll sort of see similar openings in Spider-Man stories. And so to have Robert Pattinson's Bruce sort of narrating and in monologuing to himself, because he's talking to himself in the form of a diary that he's keeping about the Gotham project, his time as Batman, felt right. It felt, well, like the Batman movie I've always wanted to see. This thing of a little bit like in Year 2, the story, where the whole thing opens up with a bunch of criminals coming back from having, you know, done criminality. They've stolen some TVs and stuff, and that they're all superstitious. They're like, oh no, I don't like this man. The Batman might be out. He might be, you know, no way, man. He won't bother with us. We're too small time, whatever. And they go into the dark of their flat, you know, because it's Gotham, but they've left the TV on so that people think someone's home. Ironically enough, they don't want to get robbed. And someone turns on a torch and it flashes up on the Batman, on his chest, and they're like, whoa, you know, we thought we were too small time for you to bother with. And he's like, no crime is, I'm no criminal. And then they all draw guns. He outsmarts them. If you put your faith in guns, you've already lost. And beats them up and swings away into the night. And the film has that kind of atmosphere, in so much as Bruce is saying, I can't be everywhere, but I can. But the idea of Batman can be haunting these people. And so you see this succession of criminals at the beginning of the film looking into shadows, just thinking, maybe not tonight. No, okay, I'm going to stop this. There's a bit of that in The Dark Knight. You see, no man, I don't like this night, when he's looking up at the bat signal in the sky, and criminals are like becoming superstitious. But to actually see the impact of the shadows almost becoming alive in Gotham because of the idea of Batman was extremely good, very satisfying, very clever. And also the fact that Bruce has a way of sort of being in the city that's not just being Batman. So he's got three identities. There's Bruce deploying in the city when he's got his bike helmet on or a hoodie on or something, getting ready to be somewhere in order to become the Batman. And this means he can walk through crowds as he was at the beginning of the movie on Halloween night in a hoodie with the eye makeup on, but no one's really looking too closely. And then he can spot crime happening, as he does, as we see in the trailer with a gang on the train network. And then he can deploy himself as Batman. He can put on the costume and be there, suddenly out of nowhere, out of the darkness. And that's it. That actually brings me to the sound and music mix, which is fantastic. The booming soundtrack, dun 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 dun, is bombastic. It's, some people are, I think, erroneously comparing it to the Imperial March from Star Wars. I don't think I think that's too simplistic. The soundtrack has a lot more going on. It mixes in aspects of Ave Maria. It uses the notation of timpani drums as much as it does wind and brass and string instruments. It has aspects that are sort of very spider-like, very, well, cat-like actually. Sort of thing, implying the elegance of Catwoman. We'll come on to her in a second. I think it's a really good soundtrack, and I listen to it at the moment when I'm driving in the car at night, and it just, going up the motorway or something to get, to go and pick up some shopping. It's nice. It's very good, but mixed with the sounds. Out of the shadows, first of all you hear, and Chris Stuckman pointed this out in his movie review, which I saw before I went to see the film, the footsteps. You just hear the sort of coming out of the shadows, and then he's revealed, and these heavy stomping boots that aren't ninja-like. He doesn't give a shit if you know he's coming, because he knows that you're going to be scared. Comes out of the shadows, beats up the guys as you see it in the trailer, and it's the thumping, the thuds, the rain, the depth and breadth of these sounds are fantastic. I don't know, I didn't watch the Oscars. Of course, there was the infamous incident. Oh wow! But I hope at the very least that these guys on the sound mix team get some sort of credit for their work from their colleagues, if nothing else. So it's it was a fantastic, just aural experience, AURAL experience, hearing this film. And there's a point when the Batmobile starts up, and you hear the sort of it's exciting, it's visceral. It was it's deployed in that sense very specifically. He uses it in the film as a distraction to get people's attention, which is something I love from the comics as well. Is that in the Red Hood story, we hear some narration talking about how if Batman wants, he can make it sound like hell is coming down on you using the car or the plane. But also as well, he's got sound suppressing technology that can make it very quiet. So this idea that he's going to use the car to get your attention, to scare you, again, fits in beautifully with the character that's presented, but also with that sound design. It's such a wonderful sound and music mix. I'm trying to avoid any specific spoilers here. I hope, presumably, most of you who are interested have seen this film by now. But the way that the film unfolds, I thought was very satisfying. It's got very much a crime noir sort of feel to it, gumshoe, which also fits in with this internal monologue. As you might hear in one of those old detective novels. In came a dame who was as beautiful as the sea and twice as dangerous, this kind of thing. It fits with that sort of genre. The way that clues are used and figured out in the film, I think works. Again, it feels quite sort of Fincher-esque, but that fits quite nicely with this world. and so does Zoe Kravitz's Catwoman. She is excellent. She's really, really good. And some people are going, oh no, but Michelle Pfeiffer is still the best Catwoman. No, no, she's not. Michelle Pfeiffer is an iconic vision of a Catwoman, but she's not Selina Kyle from the comics. She's not. She's called Selina Kyle in Batman Returns, and I love her portrayal. I love the character. I love the look of Catwoman, but she's very much a Tim Burton creation in that film. She's got that sort of marionette Sally stitched together kind of, and I know Tim Burton didn't direct The Nightmare Before Christmas, but she's got that kind of thing going on, hasn't she? Where she's creepy and she, it's perfect for that film, and she is brilliant. I think she acts the heck out of the role. Obviously, she looks great in the suit, but she's not actually Catwoman and Selina Kyle from the comics. And so Zoe Kravitz is much closer to Catwoman that we see, for example, in year one, certainly in various stories that draw on her roots as in the working girl community, wanting out, having friends and people around her that she cares about. She's loyal to those people, but also she's happy to rip off people who she considers to be deserving of a little bit of retribution. So it's good. She's good. She's great. The placement of the character was fantastic. It didn't just feel like they were shoehorning Catwoman into a Batman movie. It was great because it's drawing on things like The Long Halloween and so many other stories. So yeah, it was good. It was good. The final thing I suppose that I should talk about is Pattinson himself. He's excellent. I thought he was really, really good. And it's interesting how, so my friend Ruth was saying he's really good because he's just Batman in this film. She doesn't like portrayals of Bruce Wayne that we've seen, particularly, for example, in the Nolan films, where he feels the need to be a playboy, attention-grabbing, I'll buy this hotel kind of character, in order to deflect ideas that he might be Batman away from himself. In this film, Bruce and Batman are indistinguishable. Bruce is a very thin veil of a mask that he pulls on over himself when he has to go out. And when he goes out, he's really going out to further the causes of the Batman. So he attends this funeral, as we see in the trailers, in order to see whether or not the Riddler will turn up. Because, these criminals, they like to see the impact of their crimes and this kind of thing. That's a revel in the emotions. So he's there really using Bruce as a disguise for the Batman and the Batman's activities. He's very distractible. He's distracted by the pain of essentially a surrogate young Bruce, the boy who's lost his father at this funeral. And we see that earlier in the film when Batman is investigating a crime scene. There's stuff there that's really nice as well. This is good to see. He's meant to be a great detective, so we see him gathering evidence and analysing evidence, this kind of thing. The obsession that he shows through the meticulous gathering and analysis of evidence, crossing the line of ethical evidence gathering. He doesn't care much about the chain of custody on this stuff, taking photos from a crime scene, for example, or recording images at a crime scene. This is in order to further his obsession. He needs to solve these crimes. It's fantastic, and he is therefore, though, fairly monotone. He is the Batman throughout, and this has led some people to criticise and say, well, really, shouldn't the actor playing Batman, Bruce Wayne, be 2 or 3 different people, at least? So we have Batman, we have Bruce, and then we have real Bruce. So Bruce the facade and real Bruce. So Bruce that Alfred knows, Bruce that goes down into the cave but isn't Batman. That's at least 3 different characters, and I think there's room here for that to develop. That's the point of this story. It feels like these are characters in their infancy, and Matt Reeves, the director, has very much talked about it along those lines, not least with a cameo that turns up at the very end of the film, which I'll come to in a moment. And so it means that in this movie, Bruce can learn something about what it means to be Batman, about where possibly he has to go with Batman, but also with Bruce as well. He sees that not being Bruce leads to bad things. It leaves his money open to abuse, for example. He has to take responsibility for the Wayne legacy, the Wayne money pot, the Wayne presence in the city. But it's understandable that he would have to see what happens when he doesn't do that, because for him, the focus, the priority is being the Batman. So by the end of the film, he's gone from talking about simply being, I'm vengeance. I'm vengeance. To actually talking about hope and hopefulness and the need for people to have more than vengeance in this city in order to rise above the events of the film, shall we say. So I look forward to seeing where Bruce and Batman go next, because I suspect we're going to see a more engaged Bruce Wayne persona in the next movie. And that's great, because it starts off with him just being obsessed with being Batman, and now he grows to understand a broader ethical and moral mission that he's on and the implications of this mission that he's on. He also grows to understand that he can't just drop everything and be the vigilante. It also, in that sense, I suppose, gives us a reason as to why he does continue being Bruce. Why doesn't he just live in a shack somewhere and just be, the Knight? And this is the answer, one of the answers. So I think Pattinson as the Batman is really good. It's a thinking, crafted performance that leaves, as I say, leaves space for the character to grow and to become the Batman that we know, from 80 odd years of comics. Finally, and this is where I suppose there is a spoiler element, although actually a deleted scene has now been released on YouTube. I first saw it a couple of days ago. The Joker is in this film, or at least, again, a nascent version, an early version of the Joker is in this film. I didn't mind that. He interacts with Paul Dano's Riddler at the end of the movie, having been caught. They're both sort of in adjacent cells. And the Riddler, incidentally, I haven't talked much about him in this video because I haven't wanted to spoil much about how that unfolds, but I thought it was really good. I thought he was very similar to the Zodiac Killer. You've probably seen this in the trailers, but also there's something about the actor's face that actually is disarmingly, especially in this movie, disarmingly sort of cherubish. He's kind of unbelievably not scary looking, which is perfect, for this type of villain. But there he is, he's been caught, he's in the cell next to what appears to be the Joker, an early version of the Joker that is confirmed in that deleted scene, where they were going to bring in a sort of a Silence of the Lambs kind of consultation between Batman and this Jack character, where he's like, we're coming up on our first anniversary, aren't we? So it implies history. It implies that there has been a year one, as it were, in this year two story. He is clearly very, very intelligent. He's analysing the aspects of the crimes that are unfolding, but he's also horribly scarred as well. So it implies, again, backstory. What happened to this guy? Is this a Red Hood, the original Red Hood origin for Joker? Did he fall into a vat of acid? Was he born with this scarring? Matt Reeves has said that he thinks that this Joker is someone who's been born with a congenital condition that means he's just always smiling, which means that people present themselves to him in very particular ways. They give him insight into them because they're sort of disarmed by his constant smile. And so he's cursed by this smiling demeanor that gives the Joker the psychosis that will become, and as the director says, become fully the Joker when he declares himself as the clown. So again, there's room to grow, there's room to move, there's room to stretch, there's room in this universe, unlike, for example, with the Nolan universe, for characters with, you know, outlandish origins, like falling into a vat of acid, or maybe even, you know, people like Poison Ivy and Mr. Freeze and so on and so forth, to come into this world. It's not a Nolan Batman or Dark Knight trilogy universe. It is comic booky in the best ways, and I think Joker is a nice little hint at that. I can see why they didn't keep the scene in there. You know, if you're going to have people sort of saying that this is a little bit like Seven, do you really want them also saying this is like Silence of the Lambs? I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't have minded the scene being in there. It does fit with that crime noir sort of gumshoe aspect to a certain extent. But either way, I mean, what a promise of a future character development to have. And there we go. I mean, I've been rambling now for basically half an hour. So and I deliberately kept my notes brief. I've got 5 points here. I've touched on all 5 of them because I knew that I would be rambling on, and that this video would be more than 15 minutes long. I was like, oh, it'll just be 15 minutes. It'll be absolutely fine. But no, here we are, 27 minutes in, and it's great. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you for, you know, putting up with my idiocy with regards to the camera. And I'll see you next time. Definitely, hopefully catch you on Twitch as well. I am streaming on the regular. I'll probably be streaming tonight, certainly tomorrow night. Last night we streamed Psycho Pinball, my favourite pinball game of all time. So do check that out if you're so inclined. Until next time, do take care. Bye-bye.